Pontarddulais Comprehensive School, Welsh Baccalaureate, Global Skills Lessons, Lesson 3, PESTLE Factors. Today's lesson, you're going to be considering PESTLE factors, and you're going to be using the same sources that you previously analysed and looking to see if they touch upon any of the PESTLE factors. Before you do that, you have to have an understanding of what we mean by PESTLE factors. So, as you can see, they're listed here. P stands for political, and this is if a source mentions anything to do with the government. It could be about actions that the government are taking, it could be the government's response to being asked a question, it could be the government working with different countries around the world, for example, particularly in light of something like child poverty. For E, it is economic, and this is if the source mentions something to do with money, if it mentions how little money that people living in poverty have, how much money is being spent to help with the problem. Whatever is being mentioned in relation to money would be considered an economic factor. And what's important to remember is that some of these factors can overlap. So if a source mentioned the government is spending £5 million, for example, to tackle child poverty, then obviously it's something that touches upon political and economic. The next factor is social. Does the source mention social issues or groups? Well, if you're looking at a group within society, and in this case we're looking at children living in poverty, then yes, it's going to have social factors. What you need to do is make it explicit where in the source it mentions these social factors. And there could be other social factors at play. Are there a specific group of children in poverty more at risk? Or are there groups within society that need to be doing more to help these children who are living in poverty? In my mind now, I'm thinking of we hear about Marcus Rashford and the work he's done around free school meals and helping children who maybe don't have enough food to have lunch at the minute. So there's lots going on that we could be talking about here if it's mentioned in the source. The next factor is technological. Does the source mention anything to do with technology? So does it mention how there's advancements in technology are helping get children out of poverty, or are they leading to more poverty with technology? It depends on what the source mentions, really. Legal. This is if a source mentions anything to do with laws. So is there a change to the law? Are the government looking to add a new law? Has somebody broken the law by doing something? What laws are mentioned? And finally, environmental. Does the source mention anything to do with the environment? Now, when we think of the environment, my initial thought would always be to look at the external environment in terms of trees, plants, animals. However, there's nothing to say here that you can't consider somebody's own personal environment, where someone is living. Does it have a healthy environment for them? E.g., does it have sanitation? Are there toilet facilities for them to use? So these are things that you need to consider as we go through each of the sources. Look to see if they have any of the PESTLE factors. They won't probably have all of the PESTLE factors. They might only have one PESTLE factor, but they would certainly touch on a few, and these might overlap as well, as I explained. If we're talking about the government introducing a law that's related to the economy, then obviously there'd be 3 different PESTLE factors at play here, but just make it explicit how it mentions this factor. Now, if you open your pupil booklet for this lesson, you will see you've got the same source A you used last time, and now we're just going to look to see what PESTLE factors does this source touch upon. So, let's consider what we can see. It tells us that a record 2.9 million children from working families are living in poverty after housing costs have been paid. So straight away, we have an economic factor. So what I would do is, where it says economic, I will now type in some information in relation to that. As you can see, I've taken a direct quote from the source, and it mentions that 2.9 million children from working families in the UK are living in poverty. Obviously, these people are working, and yet they're still not earning enough to keep their children out of poverty. So that's something that we need to consider as an economic factor. Now, if we keep going through the source, there's lots of information, and I mean, the thing that jumps out at me here is if you look at the last sentence, it says the government said that tackling poverty was its priority. So I would add that into the political element. As you can see here, I've now added in the last sentence from the source, the government said that tackling poverty was its priority. I've made a mistake in my typo, so I'm going to correct that. So now that I've corrected the it, you can see it's the exact copy of the line at the bottom of the source, and this shows that the government is saying that it's making tackling child poverty its priority. Now, this creates a political issue because people might argue that, well, is it the priority? Is this what the government should be doing, and should it be focused on other issues? Again, this opens up a whole debate that you need to consider when you come to write your personal standpoint on this issue, but it shows that the government see this as such a serious issue, it's making it its number one priority. And therefore, this is something that you need to now look at for all the sources that you've got in this booklet. So go through the sources and look for PESTLE factors. As I've explained, they won't all need to be covered because not every source would cover every factor. You might only have one factor, two factors, three factors within a source. Pick out key words, lines, quotes that you think demonstrate that it's a political, economic, social, technological, legal, or environmental issue. And if you wanted to add a little sentence to clarify why you put it in, that would be beneficial in helping you when you start to plan for your personal standpoint. If you have any questions about any of the work set so far, or in particular anything to do with the PESTLE factors, please don't hesitate to get in touch with myself. Email me and I can help you through this. Best of luck.